At a time when more than 5,000 craft beer companies are all fighting for mindshare, it's never been more important for entrepreneurs to understand where they're going and how they're going to get there. Each year, Craft Brew Alliance, together with Brewbound, selects 2 upstart breweries and sends them to Portland, Oregon, where they spend 2 days learning from one another, brewing together, and exploring one of the most prolific beer cities in the United States. These are their stories. This is the learning curve.
You know, an interesting story, and kind of when I knew we were on to something, when we were in the first brewery, remember the warehouse, No Tie?
Yeah.
The word got out that we had an Abuelita's chocolate stout. Well, Abuelita's chocolate, if you've ever had it, it's very typical. And I remember that evening I was pouring, and suddenly like 12, 13 mothers with strollers walked in and filled up our tasting room, which was tiny at that time. They said, "We heard you had Abuelita's chocolate. We all came to taste it." And I was just like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah.
And they loved it, and they would come back every so often to try some of the other beers. But that was just symptomatic of no matter how good the IPA you ever make,
right,
that's never going to happen.
You're never going to capture that audience.
No one's going to come with their strollers and say, I've heard you, they're new to craft beer. They're mostly wine drinkers, but the intrigue of it was enough to get them to try it and experience it. In most cases, they loved it.
Yeah.
So that to me is like, okay, this is exactly where we want to go.
Right.
When we opened up, we were the 86th brewery in San Diego to open. There are now over 140, and then of course across the nation. And we really thought long and hard around what our contribution would be to the beer scene. And our idea was, well, look, we're Latinos, so what we can contribute to the beer scene is help with the exploration of flavors.
So my brother and I, for example, just started putting a bunch of hibiscus, a bunch of Mexican chocolate, the abuelita chocolate. I don't know if you ever had it, it's in little bars. My brother has always been very meticulous when it comes to processes. I'm always more of the let's see what happens approach. So for me, I kind of threw all these ideas, and my brother was like, I haven't seen anything like this on the internet. Let's not do it. I was like, no, why not? Why should we not do it? So we started making all these beers with these approaches to try and expose most of our friends and families to what craft beer can be.
As soon as we opened, 4 months later, we won a medal for the Blood Saison. That was the initial catalyst of everything that kind of proved that we were doing something right.
Hi, my name is David Favela.
Marcel Favela. Marcel Favela. I'm the founder, brewmaster here at Border X Brewing, Barrio Logan, San Diego.
You know, in December, I was really enthusiastic about the passion that David had about what they were doing and about brewing really amazing beer, but also having this nostalgic connection with their childhood and with the Latino community, and being very true to that. And now that I've had a chance to spend a couple of days with them and learn more about their family and the fact that, their sister created the tap handles and she is a mechanical engineer. She built the brewing system for them. That's really special stuff, and it all just lends credibility to the story that he's already told. So it reassures me that what they're doing is real. I'm Carmen Olson. I'm the Senior Manager of Emerging Business for Craft Brew Alliance in Portland, Oregon. This is really cool. This is different than what other people are doing because you're using beer to tell a story.
Yes.
It's like there's something really important to be said about what's happening at Chicano Park, about what's happening at Barrio Logan, about the people that you're introducing to craft beer, and you're doing that with a beer that's really amazing. That's fantastic,
But our move to Barrio Logan really opened our eyes to kind of the greater community.
Apart from that neighborhood, it's one of the oldest just Mexican communities or Latino communities here in San Diego and in a lot of places. So it holds a lot of culture and it holds a lot of roots.
And it has a long history of being very tight-knit, everyone helping everyone else out. And in 1974, that really came to the forefront when the neighborhood was being cut up into a lot of different pieces. So we had a freeway that cut Logan Heights from Barrio Logan. That's the Freeway 5 right behind us. And then there was a bridge called the Coronado Bridge that also, again, cut up the neighborhood into pieces. And at that point, the neighborhood was really, on the ropes and had enough. And they rose up in 1974 to really say, that's it. We deserve some respect and attention. And in a very dramatic takeover, the whole neighborhood rose up, took possession of the park, camped out, and have not left for over 46 years now.
I've been bartending where, you know, a young Latino couple or whatever will come up to the bar. They'll look around, they'll look at the artwork, they'll look at the flavors, they'll look about who we are and what we're saying. And they'll say, I feel like you built this for me.
It's kind of like a hard thing to explain, but like filled with a little bit of culture. You walk in there, you see like when you see the roof, when you see the drawings, you see a lot of chalk art on the walls. Like everything kind of resembles, and piñatas everywhere. So it's kind of like that feeling. As soon as you walk in, you kind of see like, oh, this is completely different. This is a different culture I'm not used to.
We're standing atop the brew deck of the new Innovation Brewery here at Widmer Brothers. It's a 10-barrel system, 4 vessels, state of the art, one of a kind. Not too many small breweries can have access to a system like this. So it's all steam jacketed, and we can have fun doing beers that normally wouldn't be able to do on a 2-vessel system.
Mostly my brother and I started just trying to make a Dunkelweizen, and then we just remember what's a big flavor that you get when you're like in a piñata, especially when we grew up in Mexico. You smash the piñata and like nobody wants the Mazapan because usually it crumbles super easily. So that's kind of something you always like try to just fight not to get almost, but it's so delicious anyway because like you don't care. Once it's crumbled, it's just easy to get it and just like open it and just dump it into your mouth. So it's gonna come out awesome because those guys have the experience how to like just condition it and fine tune it. That way you don't get like chunks of Mazapan in the beer. So that's kind of the collaboration. We create the crazy part of it and the insaneness kind of almost to it, and the, I don't know, you just connect it to some kind of the cultural aspect that we got growing up in Mexico to their experience with the beer. So that's kind of the combination of knowledge that comes out when you do a collaboration.
So as far as I knew, you guys really know how to make the jefa. So from there, I don't know if you guys have made a dunkel before, and San Diego is not very well known for dunkels either. So I kind of wanted to learn a little bit of the dunkel side of it and then add a little bit of those ingredients, and just mixing those two I felt was going to be like a natural combination. I mean, it's amazing exposure when you get to collaborate with a big brewery like that, but I think the biggest key is just that conversation you have while you're brewing. Why the different steps? Why do you use these ingredients instead of these ingredients? And I think even though being a smaller brewery, sometimes it gives bigger breweries other perspectives that they wouldn't have thought about. There might be some things we taught them. Even if we didn't bring any of the, at least the beer knowledge, I think the passion and just the conversations that go with it are also kind of contagious when it comes to that.
When I saw the agenda that David asked for, you know, when we talked about what would you like the day to look like? You can meet with whomever you want to talk to. When I saw that he wanted to talk about partnerships on the agenda, it was so illustrative for me about where we're at in the industry. That like even the small 2-barrel brew house who's pumping out 400 barrels a year is thinking about what their next step is because they know that they have to do that to stay competitive.
I think the biggest thing I learned was the controlled growth, because the reason you kind of mentioned right now that if you just shotgun your beers out there, you obviously will lose the effect that we have in this tasting room. And I think our biggest focus, something we talked about during the trip too, is we always thought about, yeah, let's put bottles out there in the big accounts, let's do this, let's try to expand. But then we stepped back after talking with everyone at Widmer, and we were like, you know what, we need to control how we grow too. Because even though we want to be out there, I think going to selective accounts that treat our beer the way we treat it is going to be the way we're going to keep kind of our culture.
You know, if I think about what matters to us most from a brewer's perspective, from a company perspective, from a personal perspective, number one is making the best beer that we possibly can and being true to the craft. You know, paying attention to the details, really looking for the nuance and the flavors and learning from other brewers so that we can create the very best craft beer that we possibly can.